Salam Aleikum. Welcome back to another video. Today's topic is about, I'll title it People Judge Others More Than They Live in Their Own Lives, or More Than They Live Their Own Lives. But I'll probably explain it more so, why do people judge others more than they live their own lives? So I gotta explain what judgment is first and foremost, because we gotta get to the nitty-gritty here, man. You know my channel, we like to, at points get really deep into some subjects. So judgment is the cognitive process of evaluating circumstances to form an opinion, or the capacity for discernment and critical thinking. So I'm going to more so look at the first portion of this explanation and this definition. It is the cognitive process of evaluating circumstances to form an opinion. Judgment can be very good, because let's say you're in a position where, let's say you're walking home at night. If you're a guy or girl, it does not matter. And let's say you have headphones in. Your judgment, let's say if you see someone walking towards you, and this is late at night, your judgment, right, it's the ability to cognitively process information, right? Evaluating the circumstance in order to form an opinion. Let's say you felt like you were in danger, right? Let's say like someone was approaching you and you felt threatened. The judgment that you'll make in that moment is to decide to be protective. So you might remove a headphone just to be aware of what's going on, right? In this sense, judgment is very good because it actually keeps you alive. It removes the ability for you to be robbed or harassed or anything, right? Judgment can turn into something very bad very quickly. So again, I want to really emphasize the first portion of this explanation, this definition. It is the cognitive process, so your brain's function of evaluating circumstances to form an opinion. So really the absolutely most important and essential part of this is to evaluate circumstances to form an opinion. Let's say, for instance, you were someone who wanted to connect with others. The others that you are attempting to connect with are going to make a judgment in order to justify their opinion. So remember, it is the cognitive process of evaluating circumstances to form an opinion. That is very dangerous. Again, you have to think very clearly when you're making a judgment. A judgment is a big decision to make, and it can have many impacts on another individual or another group. So again, I would really stress, don't just make rash judgments. Think very clearly, because the point of this video is to explain people really do judge others a lot. A lot. I think in the New Testament, there's like a verse where it's like Yeshua, right? Jesus Christ, he says something along the lines of, you look at the thorn, in the eye of your brother, right? Or your neighbor, something along those lines. But you don't look at the plank in yours. Right, he's basically he's speaking about the hypocrisy of looking at another individual's shortcoming, because this can be very dangerous, especially in the realm of judging. It's basically, who are you to judge when you have so many ills within yourself, right? That's really the point. And why people judge others, I'll say it like this: it makes them feel better. It really does. At a high level, very high level, it actually gives them gratification. It actually gives them satisfaction, because it actually gives them that confirmation that they are doing something correct. Especially when they're in a group setting When you judge someone and when you make an assertion, an assumption on another individual, and another person within that grouping confirms that, you feel even more validated in your judgment. This can be another very dangerous, slippery slope that we always tend to fall into. Um, so, yeah, I'll title the video something along the lines of "People judge others more than they live their own lives," because it's a true fact. Um, in my faith, in Islam, we have something to do with backbiting. So, backbiting is the ability to speak ill or speak of another individual behind their back. This is a big problem, and I look. I think that it's a normal thing. I think people love talking about other people because it just passes time, right? But you shouldn't, especially when you see someone's doing that. I would really encourage you to instantly cut off that sort of a conversation, especially if it's not a productive one, especially if it's one that's just going to, let's say, regurgitate information that will only cause more discussion around the ill that you are trying to assert this individual has created on a specific group. Um, yeah, why people judge? It's just a common thing. I think that people say, like, when you meet someone for the first time, it's like they instantly judge you, right? Um, right? Their experiences, whatever, shapes their opinion of who you are. You could be wherever on this planet and you would be instantly placed into a pre-existing box because of the assertions and the assumptions this person will have to make in order to see how they're going to treat you. This is something that I really want to stress, especially for people of color. You do have to get used to this. It's such a very weird topic. I will try and discuss this at a later date, but people's assertions and assumptions of you are already created. They just want to find where you fit. And that's another thing. You may not even be in any of those boxes that they got, but they have to place you somewhere just for their own, comfortability within themselves. So yeah, I would definitely stress, if you are a group of people and someone has done something, just shut your mouth. Stop talking about people. It's probably the smartest option because you don't know what that person wanted to do. Yeah, I had a situation on this campus where I spoke to a couple of these, people, and I think that they felt very uncomfortable around me, and they wanted to really paint me as like a weirdo. And I was very aware of the way that they were going to start to treat me afterwards, so I kept my calm as much as possible. In fact, I told one of the executives of one of the clubs here, hey, I am not going to even speak to any of these individuals ever again, because I see what is going on here. And again, I also had an instance with one of these individuals at another situation where they called campus police on me, and the campus police were stating things that were very questionable, and I was sitting there thinking, interesting. It seems as if someone judged me, and I found out later why they judged me. I had a conversation with another individual to go in depth about what these judgments were. But I found out that people really do judge others more than they live their own lives. Because again, I would term what I was doing as learning, questioning, but I found out there's a certain way you must do it. And I learned that if you don't do it the way you're supposed to, you will be seen in a certain light. And I was very glad to learn that. So I just, stayed away from these people because I saw that I don't think we can mesh with each other. So yeah, I would definitely say, hey, if you are a part of a group of people who be talking about other people, shut your mouth. Really, shut your mouth. And I'm saying that respectfully, but yeah, give people grace. That's another thing. In Islam we don't have these sorts of terms, but in the Christian faith they got grace, which is the ability to give someone that, come on, man. But yeah, thank you so much for another seated discussion. Thank you for listening to this content. Let me know what you think. More content will be coming. The summer's on its way. I got a lot of topics that I'd like to discuss. So thank you very much for tuning in. Take care.